Hi, everybody, and welcome to our 7th session of Inspiring Future STEM Stars. This session will be a STEM panel featuring various women in the STEM field. Thank you all for coming today. So, our general rules and reminders. This session will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. If you do not wish to be recorded, please keep your camera and microphone turned off. And you are welcome to ask questions in the chat. Just keep them on topic and appropriate. And to help minimize background noise, we ask that you keep your microphone muted unless you have a question or something you need to say. Thank you. So if you are just joining us for the first time, my name is Hannah Zawaideh. I am a soon-to-be junior in high school. I've been in Girl Scouts for over 10 years now. I love STEM, and I created this project to help inspire more girls to pursue STEM in the future. So without further ado, let's begin our STEM panel. So let's introduce our guest speakers. We have Fadwat Bazzi, a student studying biochemistry at the University of Michigan. Becca Brader, a strategic initiatives program manager at Catalent Pharma Solutions. Colton, a senior systems engineer. Munro, a postdoctoral fellow at Khalifa University. Hannah Poisson, an associate scientist in the chemistry department at Stryker Instruments. And Erika Bachmann-Zawaideh, an assistant program manager. So let's begin our panel. If any of our panelists would like to share what their role in the STEM field is and what it entails.
So this is Colton. I'm the senior system engineer. I work for Boeing. Currently, we're developing a brand new ground system that's gonna communicate with satellites and send that information to troops out in the field. My role in the STEM field is essentially every day and all days to solve problems.
Thank you for sharing. Would anybody else like to share their role in the STEM field?
Sure, I can. Hi, I'm Becca Brader. I'm a Strategic Initiatives Program Manager at Catalent Pharma Solutions. So as a program manager, I lead large cross-functional teams to implement strategic projects at our site. So generally my days are full of just removing barriers, keeping our team on focus and on schedule, and also just encouraging to get us to the finish line.
Thank you.
I can go ahead and share. So my name is Fadwat. I'm undergrad at the University of Michigan-Dearborn. I'm actually going into my senior year. I'm studying biochemistry. I do a lot of research in organic chemistry. So I would think that, that's kind of my role in the STEM field for now. My plans after graduation, I hope to go into the field of medicine, which technically maybe doesn't fall under the STEM category, but there is a lot of science and engineering and technology that really goes into improving medicine. So, but for now, I really like to focus on my studies in biochemistry and chemistry, and I love to do a lot of organic chemistry research.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah again. I'm an associate scientist at Stryker Instruments. So a lot of what I do is working back and forth with engineers on new products. So different kinds of hand and power tools. So they come to us as chemistry, material science experts to kind of help them along with that aspect of things. So I do a lot of up close microscopy to help figure out product failures and that type of thing.
Very cool. Kat?
Yeah, all right. I'm a postdoctoral fellow, so I'm in the academic step after you finish grad school. So I wrapped up my PhD in February of 2019, and someone I met at a conference said that they wanted me to come do work in Abu Dhabi, so I'm in Abu Dhabi continuing bench work. So my day-to-day is fundamental science between physics and chemistry to understand nanofluids and their coatings and applications.
Very cool. Erika?
You'll have to excuse the video. I'm on my way home from work. I'm an assistant program manager. I manage a team of engineers and logisticians who assist in producing and designing engineering solutions for basically it's a medium mine protected vehicle for the Army, which is then fielded out to units to complete route clearance missions. And basically I manage that team and try to solve engineering issues, whether it's trying to insert new capabilities or trying to reverse engineer or create new parts that we can't buy because our suppliers can't find the parts. So basically it's solving a lot of problems and helping a team manage finding those problems or solutions.
Awesome. So our next question is, what is your favorite part about your role in the STEM field? Sorry, if you would like, you can...
This one, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
So, I didn't have a single science class in my undergraduate curriculum until my roommate sophomore year got super sick and needed someone to go to her lectures and take her notes for her. I was an art major, right? So I was studying all the classics of art history and how you apply paint to a canvas to get it to look like Picasso but not be Picasso. And it turned out chemistry was super helpful with that. So my favorite part about my role in STEM is learning all new skills all day, every day, and being able to apply it to anything I touch. Because you're looking at fundamental skill sets with great applications.
Cool, thank you for sharing. Erika, you raised your hand? You're muted, sorry.
So my favorite part has been able to solve problems. So prior to being a program manager, I was an engineer, and I was an engineer in lots of test programs where customers would come with problems. Say an automotive company was producing a new truck and they needed to know how it would perform off-road, or if they wanted to insert like new springs, or they were having problems with exhaust systems. So my job as an engineer was to create a way to test for that, like to figure out, would it fail if you did something? And then if you inserted a new solution, would it cause other problems? So one of my favorite programs was, we had a truck that had horrible performance in hot weather and on steep inclines. So we created this solution that we thought would fix it. It was basically inserting a cooler before the transmission or something like that. Well, we went and tested it and found out that it caused problems and made the oil temperatures exceed. So it's all like trying to think about solutions, which really makes you think about how little changes can cause big impacts down the road. And that's really been my favorite part of, experiences in STEM.
Very cool. Fadwat?
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree. Especially Catherine, what you said about just the number of skills that you're able to gain, and even just for skills life in general. Being in a research lab, things definitely don't always go as planned, and you kind of just have to be able to build those skills to kind of learn what could have went wrong, or really be able to create a solution for yourself and for your work. And so I think the number of skills that I was able to gain has just been so helpful for me, and I love that I could apply it to everything.
Great. Would any of our panelists like to add? Becca?
Sure. I like that I've been able to work in a variety of different industries. So with my skill set, I can really work in any industry. I have a lot of quality engineering background. So I've been able to work in environmental remediation, ag chemicals, industrial filtration, apparel, and now pharmaceuticals. And that kind of side, I'm an engineer, and so I have a natural curiosity, and I like to know how things are made and how things are run. And I like that I've been able to do that across the variety of different industries that I've worked in.
Nice. Would Hannah or Kara like to add?
Sure, kind
Can
of
go.
just,
I agree. Oh, go ahead. Anna.
sorry. I pretty much agree with just about what everyone else has been saying, just kind of the project diversity, like you get to work in so many different fields. Like I've done an internship at a solar company. I've done more like formulations type work. Now it's a lot more kind of back and forth with like different engineers on like new projects, like just the amount of different things you can do. There's so many different possibilities and applications. Like it's awesome, like knowing how all these things work together.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Kara. I'll add one more thing. I agree with what everyone said, about the variety of the experiences, the challenge, the fun of solving problems. But I would also add, you would get, in the STEM field, you get to see the fruits of your labor. So if you solve a problem on a system and that fix is implemented and you see that system work, that's really exciting to see, what you create come to life.
Yeah. So our next question is, what was your experience pursuing STEM?
I could start. So when I was actually in high school, I remember taking a chem class and I was super intimidated by it. It's just like the type of class where everyone's like, oh, it's so hard and whatnot. And so I didn't really have the greatest experience in high school, but then when I started college, I kind of had that kind of memory of it and wasn't too excited going into it. But I ended up loving it so much, and which is why I actually had interest in doing research in organic chemistry. And then being that I wanted to go into the field of medicine, I kind of wanted to combine that aspect of, living organism, the chemistry that occurs in living organisms. And so, what better than biochemistry to fulfill that? So for me, it was just kind of finding a passion in things I love to do. I love to do research. I love to problem solve. And hopefully I'll be able to get a chance to do that in the field of medicine. And, yep.
Great. Would any of our other panelists like to add?
I think I can start off on this one. So at least for me, right out of high school, like I knew I wanted to pursue like something in STEM. Always really loved like biology and chemistry and that type of thing. And in college, I kind of hopped around with different majors. At first, I thought I wanted to do food science, and then that switched to computer science, and then back to chemistry. So all these kind of interests. Ended up just going into chemistry just because I really loved the lab work and all like the hands-on aspect of it is what I really enjoyed. But I think it's okay to kind of switch your mind and at least try out like your different passions too, because you never know what you like the best too.
Erika, you raised your hand.
So in high school, I absolutely loved science, but I also liked math. And while I was in probably 10th grade, there was a boy in my class who would always challenge me, saying that girls weren't as good as math. So that like really got my passion into mathematics. So when I went into college, I was kind of confused about whether I wanted to study chemistry or mathematics. I couldn't understand organic chemistry. So those of you who are great on it, I give you props. It just didn't sink in my head. So I went to school for mathematics. I graduated and got I had a job in forecast analyst, which is like predicting sales and trends, and figured that I would go back to school and get a master's degree. So I started in industrial engineering, which is basically manufacturing. And then I took another class in systems engineering, and it really just clicked. Like, it was a study of how all these different things relate to each other. And it involved math and then engineering, and you could apply it to everything. So I got my master's degree. I ended up working for several automotive companies and testing companies. And then I ended up working for the Army as a civilian, where I was an engineer and did test and development. So that's kind of like been my experience in studying. Like, I really loved math and science, and just ended up in engineering because it kind of merged the two together.
Cool. Would anybody else like to share their experience? Okay. So I can move on to the next question. What inspired you to pursue STEM?
So I'll go first. So I had some really great teachers when I was in junior high and high school. And one teacher specifically, her name was Donna Malkmus. She really encouraged me to participate in science extracurricular activities at school. So Science Olympiad, Science Fair, Science Club. And I just really kind of took to it. And just through different successes and science fair, I think that's really where I decided I wanted to be an engineer. And then and then just seeing the ladies at our high school, they were running all these classes like chemistry and ecology and human anatomy and biology. So I always had these great women role models to look up to at high school. So I think I just saw myself doing that. I could picture myself there. And so, and then I'll also be, just from a competition standpoint, I knew a lot of guys going to be engineers after they graduated. And I was like, I can do that too. And I just wanted to prove that I could do it as well.
Very cool. Would anybody else like to share?
Yeah, I'll go next. So when I was a teenager, I would have to help my dad do construction and do physical labor. And that instilled the work ethic in me really early on. Like, I'm going to study really hard in school so I don't have to do this when I grow up. So I ended up going and studying. I got my engineering degree. I got my bachelor's and my master's, and I used that. And instead of working really hard every single day, I work really hard to get where I am, and I have fun every single day. So.
Thank you for sharing. Hannah, it seemed like you wanted to share.
Sure. I think just in general, like even ever since I was just like a little kid, like having like a good healthy curiosity, like if you find yourself kind of like wondering how things work, like how is this product made, like what all went into that, I would say like you're definitely like more like STEM inclined. Like it's definitely like a good path to go.
Thank you. Kat, would you like to share?
Yeah, to build off of what Hannah said, I don't know, variety is the spice of life. So to limit yourself to things that are depicted as classically female seems really daunting, right? So like the STEM field offers so much more than what the acronym says. And there's no reason to not look into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics or medicine, depending on what you want the M to be. There's no reason to not look at those things and apply it in anything you want to do, right? I think everyone can speak to all of the opportunity that these backgrounds have provided them in their current career.
That's great. Thank you for adding that. So our next question is, what is it like to be a woman in the STEM field? Like, what was your experience?
So I can
So I
answer
can start.
that.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Flat out, there's not a lot of women in the STEM field. Like even going through school, it was normal for me to be the only woman in my class. Everywhere I've worked, there's only been one or two, maybe three women in my industry or my workplace. So, but I don't see that as a disadvantage. I see that as an advantage because I think as a woman you can bring diversity to all male teams, and I definitely encourage other women if they're interested and they like solving problems and they like technical challenges to definitely pursue the STEM field. It's not a disadvantage. I think it's an advantage. So.
Just kind of adding on to that. I definitely do agree that it is an advantage. So I haven't had, being that I'm still an undergrad, I haven't had much experience in terms of like in the workforce, but one example, like when I first started in my research lab, there were 3 other research assistants who were all male. And so, at first it was a bit intimidating because it seemed like they were running the lab and I was like, okay, well, I'm just here. And so, but it's kind of that mentality of having that confidence to where, you have the same exact abilities and you're capable of doing just as much and if not more, if you like that competition. And so that's the way I took it. I just kind of had confidence in myself and my abilities and that, I was no different than anybody else. And so it's been taught me a lot of skills and a lot of lessons. And so I'm really glad that I was able to have that kind of experience.
Thank you for sharing.
I'd like to add that being a woman in STEM, especially in engineering, I do tend to be the only woman in a conference room. Although at the place where I work now, it's very often that there's at least 50% and sometimes it's all women. So it's been very refreshing. What I do enjoy is the camaraderie. So I'm part of a Society of Women Engineers, and we have a section here in Kansas City, and there's sections all over the globe. And it's really a great organization for other women to come together and just talk about struggles, engineering, or just personal related, like being a mom. And also at my work, we also have a women's network, and that's been really great as well. So although maybe the only girl in the conference room, there's plenty of groups outside for support and encouragement.
Hannah or Kat, would you like to share?
Sure. Kind of going along with that too. Like at my company as well, we have like SWE and WISE, like Women in Science and Engineering. So at a lot of bigger companies, they do have these really nice outlets where you can connect with other women in the industry and kind of like get those experiences, I think is good to note.
Kat?
Yeah, so there are definitely branches for you to navigate women in science, and there's definitely groups out there. You're not going to be the only one forever, right? You kind of just have to open the next door to find a different population of people that are like there, right?
Yeah.
But what I find super encouraging, I was the only girl in my graduate program, but when I was teaching, right, it's a requirement in grad school, my classrooms were 46% female. That was great. And then I came here to Abu Dhabi and my classroom is 70% female. So it's not out of the realm to be a girl in science, right? It's definitely a thing. I think part of it is just having to overcome whatever you're thinking inside your head, right? Just having the notion that like, if you really want to do it, you can do it. Because there's a huge population sitting next to you doing the same thing.
Thank you for sharing. So our next question is, can you give us a brief walkthrough of what your typical workday looks like?
Hey, this
So
is Erika.
oops.
Go ahead.
No. Go for it.
So I can quick share mine. So most of the time it's reviewing spreadsheets on cost, schedule, and performance, but then the rest of the time is reviewing data submitted by the engineers that I oversee now, where they present problems. So right now we're trying to address a problem where we have a new replacement part, and the units are calling us saying soldiers can't install it inside the vehicle. So now my team is like sending me photos and drawings for me to review to see, you know, what's wrong with the part. Does it match the drawing? Is there something that's changed? And we're trying to do, you know, analysis and figure out what the problem is and what our solution is. So I spend, you know, a couple of hours reviewing that kind of information, and then, you know, reaching out to the production facility to see if they have any problems. So my day is mostly answering email and trying to address problems as they come up. And every single day is different. So as an engineer, when I was working just as an engineer, every single day was different. Some days I would go to a test facility and we would be testing a part or a vehicle system, either in a cold chamber or outside running around desert roads. Other days I'd go to a manufacturing plant and talk about what problems they were having, whether parts didn't fit, whether they had quality issues, whether we needed to design new solutions. So a great thing about being an engineer or a person in STEM is that every day is pretty much different. I mean, that's been my experience, so it's not boring.
Thanks for sharing. Kat, would you like to share?
Sure. I have a couple of things that anchor my days. So I have my lectures in the morning. So I teach usually a 7:30 a.m. lecture 3 days of the week, and then a 9 a.m. 2 days of the week. And it's just like typical lecture, go in, present the information, have them go into breakout groups with their graduate teaching assistants. And then I get to go into the lab and play, right? So depending on what I need to get done that day, it could be fixing an instrument, it could be making new nanofluids, it could be testing a coating, or it could be analyzing all of the data that's been generated for the week, because it's more fun to play than it is sometimes to work up all the numbers.
Yeah.
So like Erika said, the days are almost always different. And depending on what field you end up in, you can choose to anchor it different ways if you like some type of consistency.
Becca, would you like to share?
Sure. So my days kind of change based on the projects that I'm working and what stage they're in. But generally, I'm at the computer most days. If I have projects out construction, then I will go check on them. Do lots of Excel spreadsheets, and now I do a lot of technical writing as well. So I've realized over the years I've changed from essay writing as a student, and now I do a lot of technical writing. So that tends to be my day. I like it. When it wasn't COVID times, it was a lot of meetings in person, which I enjoy. So I just enjoy meeting people and talking to people and leading teams. So there is a lot of interaction with other functions and other people, which I also enjoy. And I'm working with different fields as well. So I'll be working with electricians and construction folks, and then engineering and quality, and safety right now. So my day changes all the time, and that's what I like. I don't like to have to do the same thing every day. I like a variety, and because I get bored pretty quick.
Yeah. Cara?
So I would kind of piggyback off what everybody said, is there is no typical day in engineering. Every day is something new. solving some different type of problem. Some of the things I enjoy about it is, as an engineer, you cannot possibly be the expert in every facet of a system design. You can't be the electrical engineer and you can't be the software coder. There's a lot of different expertise out there. So I get to talk to a lot of other engineers that are experts at different subjects, and I learn a lot from them. So I would say that day-to-day learning is very important and it's fun.
Very cool. Hannah, would you like to share?
Sure. Yeah, kind of the same thing as everyone else. It's very different from day to day. Most days I'll be doing some type of microscopy work. So like the main instrument I work with is a scanning electron microscope. So kind of looking at different parts underneath there. We have like an FTIR. So that's like for your transform infrared. So like displaying like a spectrum and figuring out what different contaminants are, that type of thing. And there is a lot of back and forth with like different engineers getting different product like intakes to figure out what their problems are and explaining more about like the parts and that kind of thing. It definitely varies from day to day.
Fadwat, would you like to share?
Sure. So kind of I do and don't have variation. Some days, when we're on campus, I just have classes, and then in terms of what I'm doing in the research lab, it can vary from day to day. So one day I might just be, running a synthetic reaction that takes 24 hours and I might be done for the day, while the next day I might spend the entire day trying to purify or use some spectroscopy to see what's going on. And so it really just depends on what I'm working on. And what's nice is that I can kind of look at the progression of my work. There's never really a day where I was like, okay, I'm going in today to start and finish a task. It just seems like a task can take weeks to complete. So it's interesting and it's really fun.
Thanks for sharing. So we shall move on to our next prompt. What was the coolest thing that you were able to experience while pursuing STEM or working in STEM? Kara?
So one of my previous jobs, I was an engineer on the missile defense system. And before I joined that team, I would read all kinds of articles on like PhD in physics saying it's impossible to intercept a missile in the air. It's just too difficult. And while I was on that team, I spent 6 years testing and tearing apart the missile defense system, finding everything I could possibly find that was wrong. There's a lot of work to, to essentially make it work the way it does. And I got to see a live test where they actually launched 2 missiles in the air. They launched one missile to simulate the threat missile, and then they launched an interceptor missile. And the interceptor missile we were all watching, it blew up the quote unquote threat missile in midair. And that was the coolest thing. I thought, like, there was hundreds of people on that project working together to get that end result. And that the impact was, if anyone ever shoots a missile at United States or our allies, we have that capability to defend ourselves and blow those missiles up in air. So I was very proud of that moment. I would say that's the coolest experience I've ever had with STEM.
That's pretty cool. Thank you for sharing. Hannah?
Yeah, right when I actually got this job, I found out a few weeks later that one of my partners was going to go to training in San Diego for a material science conference, and I got to hop on that and go to California like almost like a month into my new job. Got to learn a lot at that conference and like all the different like speakers from like all over the country, even from different countries too. It's very cool as like a young professional kind of getting that experience. And even looking forward in like the next couple of years, going to different trainings and that type of thing and kind of broadening my horizons that way is something that's really cool, like in the STEM field for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, to go off of that, I mean, it was very cool that Hannah was given that opportunity so early in her career, but it's also possible to just get that opportunity routinely in science. When I was an undergrad, I was sent to Italy for 18 months to help build a camera to detect forged paintings. It's all photophysics, right? If you think about the components, it's probably just a tiny LCD, some photo, like you're looking at light detection and you're trying to see how many layers of paint are there and if it matches a sketchbook, right? So it's a little bit of detective work, a little bit of intuition, but then a lot of the fundamentals that you learn in these STEM ideas. So if anything, there is always opportunity to incorporate a lot into STEM.
Do any of our other panelists have something that they would like to add?
I can add. So for me, I think just kind of preparing for a field in medicine has just been such a great experience. I've got to do, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of shadowing, and it's been really fun. But for me, I think currently, like in my research and in my courses, the coolest experience I've had was that I've actually just had my research published, which isn't really, common for undergrad students. I mean, it is, but at least at my university. Um, so it was really, really cool to kind of just see all of, those long, long hours that you put into the lab just kind of pay off. And it's really cool. I love organic chemistry because, you can physically see what you've created, which is so cool to me. So like, it might not sound really exciting to a lot of other people, but when you spend like a week working on synthesizing something, just like, and finally you're able to like hold like a flask full of like crystals. I mean, to me, like that's just so cool because you made that and you put so much time and effort into doing that. So kind of having that opportunity really early on to have that my work published was just really motivating for me, and it was been a great experience.
Awesome. Is there anything anyone would like to add to that? Okay. So I'll move on to the next question. Do you have any advice for students interested in pursuing the STEM field? Cara?
So I would say it's all about mindset. I would say if you're the type of person that where you come across a problem that you can't solve and you get excited, STEM is definitely a realistic possibility for you. And there's I've seen a lot of people that I think would be good in STEM fields, but they let little things trip them up. Like they don't do so great in math, or they didn't understand the science class, or so on and so forth. But I'll tell you right now that hard work overshadows talent any day. If you're willing to work hard to kind of fill in the gaps for some of your weaknesses, and you love solving problems, I think STEM would be a good career choice. That's my opinion.
Thank you for sharing. Becca, you raised your hand?
Sure, just to piggyback off that, don't let a C get in your way. So, and I tell that because there's a lot of girls who do really well in high school, and then they go to college and they get their first C and they think, oh my God, this isn't meant for me. But it's okay if you get your first C. It happens. It doesn't mean you're going to be a bad engineer or a bad chemist or a bad biologist. Just working through that, like she just said, and getting through that class, that in and of itself is a great experience. That to say, well, I did struggle, but I still passed. I still got through it. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be bad at that in the future.
Thank you for sharing.
Go a little further. Don't be afraid to ask for help, right? no one gets to where they are by solely depending on themselves. And if they try to, they tend not to get as far as their peers. The number of times you contemplate like asking the question, don't think about it, just ask, right? From anybody who you're working with, they can't read your mind. They're not going to try to read your mind. You have to ask the question.
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
Yeah, just to kind of go off of what everybody said, I think really understanding that failure is part of the process is just so important, because at least for me, when I first got started, like for example, in the research lab, you know, I would think that, okay, I'm gonna put like 2 weeks into synthesizing a specific compound and it's gonna go perfect, and it's, you know, that's just what I thought. And the more I started to learn that it's actually the complete opposite of that, that you are gonna experience so much failure, and you know, it's up to you to kind of be able to put your mindset in the right place to understand that, you know, STEM field is part of asking yourself questions and developing answers and creating a plan and a goal for yourself. And so I think failure and learning from it and growing from it, and you know, just really learning from your mistakes and how you can make yourself a better student, a better, you know, professional or person even. It's so important. And so having confidence in yourself, and especially I think for women, for young women going into, you know, college or even thinking about it in high school, it's very easy to be intimidated. So for example, when I'm very interested in orthopedic surgery, and so that's a predominantly male field. And so you know, shadowing and getting more information on it, it's, you know, over 90% of that field is male. And so you know, that's something that I've thought about before, but something that never, you know, held me back. That's something that I'm passionate about, something that I love, and something, you know, I want to dedicate my life to. And so long as I have that right mentality that, you know, I'm just as capable, and you know, I'm gonna get to that position, I think mentality is everything.
Thank you for sharing. Hannah, do you have anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I think just in general, there's so many like free opportunities, especially at college, like taking advantage of like office hours. I've gone to plenty of office hours where I was the only one there, and I could just ask this expert in their field so many questions. Like, it's great, it's there, it's free. There's also usually a lot of different like study groups on campus that are organized. If not organized, like create your own. Like, that's a really like great way to kind of get through like your degree, is making some friends and bouncing off ideas off each other, and kind of just not limiting yourself as well. Like, apply for like as many internships that you want to. Like, don't think that you can't work at somewhere like NASA or something like that, because people do get internships there, stuff like that. Like, don't really limit yourself.
Great. Erika, do you have anything else you would like to add?
So I'm gonna target this more towards like elementary and middle school, as you're like just, you know, starting to realize, you know, that there's so many opportunities out there. So reach out to your teachers, ask plenty of questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions if you want to know how something works. That's, you know, that's the engineer's mind or the scientist's mind, is, you know, trying to figure out how things work. Find, if you like experiments like Hannah did earlier on in her series, take a look, find YouTube videos on, you know, experiments, different ways to make slime, or how to make things glow in the dark. You know, try to expand your mind and, you know, grow that knowledge of, hey, there's so many things in science that you could potentially do. If you like building things or robots, look into joining a Lego robotics league. That'll give you the opportunity to code things, build things, and that's your initial, like, how to solve a problem. So like at you know, elementary and middle school, just, you know, branch out and see how many different things in science there are, and grow your knowledge and see what you might be interested in. Like, you might love space. There's plenty of videos and information on the NASA website. There's also through Girl Scouting lots of virtual discussions now with astronauts and those working on rockets that you can certainly listen into to help you like gain more interest or help answer those questions that you have on your mind of how do things work. And then, you know, ask your parents to, if you've got interest in things, to help you find things on the internet to learn more about it. Like maybe you want to know how, I don't know, anything works. There's so many opportunities out there, and that's going to grow your interest and help you when you get to college, maybe find an area that you want to study or a career that you want to go into. So at the younger age, you know, don't let anything stand in your way. Go out and learn and try to, you know, answer problems, or if you've got a problem in mind, you might be able to solve it yourself. Just don't be afraid to try.
Thank you for sharing. So with that, I will open it up to questions from our participants. You are more than welcome to use the chat or unmute yourself if you have a question that you would like to ask. I know Roswell was asking earlier, so I'll give her a chance to type some out. Oh, never mind. Okay, so thank you all so much for coming out today. I really appreciate you participating in our panel. It couldn't have been this great without all of your help. It was very inspiring to hear all of your STEM stories, and I greatly appreciate your help with inspiring the next generation of future STEM stars. So I would just like to add, second.
Thank you so much for having us, honestly. It was a great
Thank
time.
you.
That was a lot of fun.
I hope that you all enjoyed this last session of Inspiring Future STEM Stars. And to any of our participants out there, please fill out my post survey so that I can collect data for my Gold Award paperwork. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at inspiringfuturestemstars@gmail.com at any time. And please remember to stay curious and explore what STEM has to offer. So thank you all. If you have anything else that you would like to share, you are more than welcome to. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah. This was fun.
I agree. Thank you so much.